find more and more truth. People says, "Oh, I want to go home," and we go to church and they sing about going home and they say, "Oh, this world is not my home," and on and on and on it goes, right? This world is not my home. I'm just a passer through, and on it goes. But yet we go and we say, I want to go home. What are we usually talking about? What are we really speaking of? Usually we're speaking of our home, right? Where is our home? Do we want to go there? Yes? No? We don't know? We don't care? We don't think about it? We don't have much thought about it, do we? A lot of times we sing songs and we don't really know what we're singing. We don't really care to know what we're singing. We just want to sing, "This world is my home. I'm just a passer through." But our home is with Yahweh. We was created to be around the Creator, Yahweh. Now, obviously, we wasn't there all the time because he come and talked with Adam in the evening, right? In the afternoon, if you will. Let's go. Let's learn, what is our home? What should we be looking for? What should we be doing? How should this look? Because most so-called church people, they say they want to go home, they sing songs, they do these things, but yet they really don't know, I don't think, what they're talking about. 2 Corinthians 5 and 8. Yes, we are of good courage, and we would rather be away from the body and at home with Yahweh. Whoa. There's some truth for you, right? How many people believe that? How many people really rather be with Yahweh? Most people are busy with their boats, their yachts, their cats, their dogs, their everything but the Creator. First thing comes to mind at home is usually your favorite chair, your TV, your light, your this, your that, your PlayStation, something other than this, right? Because we've been trained, home is where we live. Home is what it is. But if we really go with the scriptures, our home is with our Creator. Our home is where our Creator made us to be. Revelation 21 and 4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall no more be. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. Many people don't understand what they are going to. We cry and we boo-hoo, and man, we have a rough time because someone died. And there's nothing wrong with that in a way, because we know we miss them. We know we're not going to see them for a time, right? But what we are supposed to be looking for is that. We should be happy. We should be glad there's no more pain. We should be living it up, so to speak, because they're never ever going to deal with pain again. That's never, death is ever going to bother them again. Right? Now this is the believer. We're not going to talk about anything else. We're going to talk about the believer. And what the believer and what we as believers are looking forward to. Philippians 3:20-21. But our citizenship is in heaven, and from it we await our Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, our Messiah, who will transform our lowly body to be like his glorious body by the power that enables him even to subject all things to himself. I don't think we understand what we're missing. I don't think we understand why all the enemies, all the fallen, all the unclean spirits, why would they come against us so much if we wasn't about to miss something? Why do they want us to be not there? Why do they want us not to be in his presence? That makes sense? Why do they fight against us so much to not be in the presence of Yahweh? And even here, if we're not careful, they want us away from the presence of Yahweh. They want us to be out of Yahweh's presence. They want us to be so far from home that we don't know what home looks like. We don't even have an inclination of what home should look like. This is my home. This is my house. This is what I long for. This is what I long to be. Instead, we're a hypocrite. We're a walking contradiction. This world's not my home. We'll sing it when we go, but yet we'll come home, and boy, I'm glad to be home. Right? John 14. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in Yahweh. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way to where I'm going. Thomas said to him, How do we know? Master, how do we know where you are going? How do we know? How can we know the way? Isn't it amazing that the disciples walked with him? They talked with him. They watched him heal people. They did all these things. And he's sitting there telling them, and they're lost. They're just straight, what are you talking about, right? How can we... I don't get this at all. And the same thing happens in churchianity. The same thing happens, Hebrew roots all across the board, no matter what you're a part of. If we're not careful, we don't know what home looks like. We have no earthly idea of what home looks like. We have no deal of what it looks like because we're too worried about what's happening here. We're too worried about what's going on in this life. And we have all these problems and all these things and everything that's going on, and we get so enrolled with them that sometimes we forget we're looking up, we're looking to the Redeemer, right? Now we know we're not going to sit on a cloud and we ain't going to live that kind of life, but home is home. And he said to him, Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Luke 23:43. Today. The scriptures are really, really to the point of when we die, where we go. He didn't say tomorrow. He didn't say in 1,000 years. He didn't say in 6,000 years. He said today. Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. There's all kinds of people, all kinds of teachings, all kinds of things that say this, that, and the other. But the scripture says specifically, today you will be with me in paradise. If we're waiting for thousands of years, if we're waiting for any time amount, what do people say? And I've heard this. I've heard my uncle say this. Well, if I'm just going to sleep, what does it matter? If I'm going to sleep for 1,000 years, see, we don't understand. Sleeping to us for 1,000 years is probably a good thing, right? You don't know pain. You don't aggravate. You really are not that bothered unless you have a nightmare in your sleep, right? If you're not sick, if you're not in some kind of bad way, sleeping's not a problem. Sleeping doesn't bother me. Sleeping doesn't. I could sleep for 1,000 years, big deal. But when we know we're going to be judged, when we know what's going to happen, when we know what the scriptures say, it's a different story. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you that I go to prepare a place for you. John 14:2. John 14:6. Yeshua said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Why? Because if you broke one covenant, if you've broke one law, if you've lied, if you've stole, if you've cheated, if you've done adultery, if you did these things, you're dead to rights. It's over. That's it. Welcome to hell. Enjoy. All eternity. Right? So what we have to do is understand, like I said, we're talking about believers. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Yeshua. Because the Father has sent Yeshua that we might have life. Psalms 21. Yahweh is my shepherd. I shall not want. Now here we go. Here's churchianity. Here's America. I would just stop at America at its finest. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yahweh is my shepherd. And do we want to keep the covenant? Do we want to do what he says to do? Do we really? I mean, is our flesh crying out, I can't wait for the Sabbath. I can't wait to sit around. I can't wait. Our flesh is usually, unless we make it, unless we get it to that point, our flesh is like, oh man, I want to go ride a jet ski. Oh man, I want to go mow. Oh man, I want to do. It's amazing. We have no problem to sit around the rest of the time. On a Thursday, we could sit around all day long, take a nap, and not seem to have a problem. But for some reason, the Sabbath day, man, it's the hardest thing ever when you first find it out. Your body just jerks and almost convulsions, don't it? If you're a busy person, you just can't hardly wait. So we know this is true. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Because others see us for his name's sake. Right? We proclaim Yahweh. We proclaim to be Sabbath keepers. We proclaim his name. Now, when somebody sees you doing things that you are not doing, that you proclaim you're doing, they're going to say you're a liar, you're a hypocrite. You're not what you say you are. Right? And when this happens, do you have the benefits from the Creator from what he says? And that's where, again, a lot of these disconnects come because people pray and pray and pray. And Joe Osteen and all these are happy to tell them quickly that, gee, this is your prosperity. This is how you make it. You're supposed to have the yacht and the car and Elmer Fudd stuff. You know, I own a yacht and a right? Even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Even though we go through the valley of the shadow of death, he's there. He lets us know. And what? His rod and his staff comfort me. Sometimes because that rod has to shove us, because we don't want to get up. We want to lay there and die. We want to lay there and moan. We want to lay there and have a pity party. We just can't get up. So his rod and his staff comfort me. Get up and move forward. Go and do what I told you to do. Stop with the pity party. Right? What did he tell Moshe? Moshe came to the sea and he said, oh! And what did Yahweh say? Why are you crying out to me? Go forward. How many times have we done this? How many times have we cried and we begged and we cried? We don't see the future. We don't know what tomorrow's about. We don't know what next month's about. So we're crying like babies. And Yahweh says, go forward. What are you crying to me for? Go forward. Your healing is forward. You'll never get it laying on your bed. You'll never get it laying in death. You'll never get what you wanted and what I have for you laying there in slop. Get up and move forward. They had to cross the Red Sea. If they wouldn't have, what would have happened? You see what happens? A lot of times we are just stuck and we're crybabying and we're all these things and we don't even know what's in store for us. We're too worried about this life and this car and this place and this garbage than what we should be worried about. And if we're not very careful, the people next to us are dying and starving and in terrible shape. And because of our own life, we neglect them. Because of our own, even non-essential things, we will neglect people. Because we are so busy in our own life. Isn't that sad? Isn't that a sad thing? You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Why don't we have this? Why don't we believe this? Why don't we have this written on our doorpost? Why can't we believe what he says? Even though the shadow of death, many people are sick, many people are ready to die, many people have all these things, and they've accepted it. Don't accept it. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. It's not over. It's not over yet. It's not close to over. But if we're not careful, the enemy and his dominions will tell us it's over for you, and that's the end of the story, and we'll shut our mouth and be quiet. But Yahweh says, be trumpet. Get up. Do something. Show me what you're about. You know, the biggest athlete, the biggest whatever you want to say, is not the one who does the best. It's not the one who does the greatest. That's not even the most loved, right? Who do we remember? Who do we remember from Olympic days and Olympic times? If you used to watch that, if you heard about it, we remember the little girl, right? What was her name? What was the little girl name that did so much stuff because she was so small? We remember Greg Louganis. We remember Mary Lou Retna because they were small in stature, because they went against all odds. Of course, a 6 foot tall. Of course, a 5'7" woman. Of course, somebody who is bigger in stature can do these things. We know it. You know, we sat there and well, I could do that too, right? I could jump over that 2 foot thing. I could do this. But when we see people doing things that wouldn't normally do it, when you've seen them on the street that they couldn't hurdle over these hurdles, they couldn't jump over these boundaries, they couldn't do these things, we say, wow, that's awesome, that's great, that's amazing, right? Because it confounds us. It makes us want to do these things. So when we look over and we see our neighbor, and we see our neighbors falling apart, and we see our neighbors hurting, we take our time and show some loving kindness and say, just sometimes talking. You know, we don't have to say, well, did you know you ain't keeping the... We don't have to be the righteous one and beat them to death. They probably know we're Sabbath keepers. They probably know we don't go nowhere on Sabbath unless it's to assembly. They probably know that people come over on Sabbath to assemble with us. They probably see that. They're not blind. So they probably know what's what. But for us to tell them loving kindness, hey brother, I'll pray for you. Hey, I hope you get better. We don't have to tell them the guilt trip. We don't have to give them, oh, have you been baptized, and all the fear factors. Hey, I'm going to pray for you, and may Yahweh bless you, and may Yahweh help you. May his countenance shine upon you. May he grant you shalom. May he help you through this time. What would we remember more? Somebody doing that or somebody trying to church us to death? Which would you remember more? If you're getting ready to go to the hospital, you think you're about to die, you've got bad news, which are you going to remember more? Somebody who has scared you even worse, or somebody that says, I got your back, and I know somebody who can do better than me. I know the Creator can heal this. I know if you talk with him, I know that you might be going through the shadow of death. I know you might have these problems. I know you might have all these things going against you. But Yahweh still loves you. He still wants the best for you. He still wants everything for you. And guess what? If it's over, then guess where you're going? Home. Right? Some of these people, when they get older and they lose their toes and their legs and their foot and their other leg, do you think they're happy? Do you think somebody walking around that's lost one leg and they're going to take another leg and they're going to take their arm, do you think that's happiness? Do you think that's any kind of happy to be just withered away? Right? We have to be careful in just, oh, well, you know, condescending, if you will, and telling people of what will happen, especially if we don't know. If we haven't heard from the Creator, if we haven't heard the unction, if we don't feel compelled to tell them they'll be healed, then don't say it. Right? There's nothing worse than going to a church and having the preacher, the pastor, get up there and pray and say, boy, we're going to pray for them, and boy, pray and pray, pray, and then get done and say, they're going to die. It's like, what? What did he just say? Did that just come out of your mouth? Why did you pray? But if we're not careful, it's easy for us to know these things. It's easy for us to do these things because we don't understand, right? And I heard a voice from heaven saying, write this, blessed are the dead who die in Yahweh from now on. Blessed indeed, says the Ruach, that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow them. For their what? For their deeds follow them. When we get to Revelation, so many people think we're in Revelation. So many people's got all these stories and teachings and everything. But the scripture says, write this, blessed are the dead who die in Yahweh from now on. That's powerful. We think we got it bad today. We think it's rough. We turn on the TV, we turn on the news. We just think it's rough. When Yahweh says, blessed be the person who's dying from that point on, can we imagine? I don't think we're even going to comprehend it until it happens. And probably most of us ain't going to comprehend it when it is happening. We're going to think it's a nightmare. We're going to think it's something else. We never believed in the last couple years. I've never thought this was going to come about this way. I never thought this was going to be this way. I don't know anybody else that did. I don't know anybody else that prophesied or seen this coming this way. But I think now we kind of got a little indication of where we know it's headed. I think now we kind of know who's who, what's what, who's going to accept it, who's not, what's going to happen, and how quickly it can go. Right? It may not still be an overnight deal. Right? But we know, we see what the clamps, we see they're already talking about it. If you don't have this, you can't buy or sell. You can't go to the grocery store. You can't do this. You can't. It might just be hearsay now. But it's propaganda to get it inside here. And just like those movies you watched in the 80s and 90s and 2000s about the monkey that brought this and 12 monkeys and all these movies that was warning us and showing us what was going to happen, we can see, right? Don't be blind. 2 Corinthians 5 and 17, therefore if anyone is in the Messiah, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, behold, the new has come. We should be renewed every morning. We should renew ourselves, not ourselves, if you will, but we shall renew because of the Ruach, because of the Messiah, because of his teachings, because we should learn. We should be able to say, that is a little bit brash. I'm going to listen, right? I'm going to listen. And if he says it's a little bit brash, it's a little bit harsh, people ain't really taking it, they ain't getting it, then guess what? We have to calm down a little bit. We have to say, oh, well, wait a minute, this ain't working out. If too many people are saying, you know, that's a little bit on the hard side. Well, you know what, I'm teaching the way I teach, and that's the way it is. But if it's not helping anybody and it's offending everybody, then what does it do? Does it help anybody or does it offend everybody? We are supposed to love one another. We're supposed to teach. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to edify the kingdom. And in doing so, we should learn all the time. I don't think I'm the same teacher I was 10 years ago. I don't think I am the same teacher 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I know at some points in times you probably couldn't tell me nothing 5 years ago. I was on fire and this was that and that. I knew the feast and the this and the that. But now you have to understand that, do we really know everything? Do we know what we say we know? Do we live the way we say we live? Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it home? That's a big question. That's the whole question. Are we going to make it home? And this is something we have to live and ask every day. And when we mess up, we say, Father, Yahweh, forgive me. Thank you for sending your son. I don't know what happened to me today. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I acted so immaturely. I should know better. Right? There's some days that I think we just beat ourselves up. It's like, my goodness, what happened? But emotionally, physically, people get sick, people go in the hospital. It's easy when you're back behind the keyboard. It's easy to say, what's wrong with that dude, right? How many people say, hey, brother, are you all right? How many people, are you doing okay? Is everything all right? You seem a little bit off today. You seem a little bit off. Have you been, when you see people in tears doing a teaching, it might be an indicator that their world may not be as just peachy as you thought it was. But do we care? Do we even care enough to say, hey, brother, hey, sister, hey, let me help you. Let me talk to you. Send me a friend request. Send me a message. Send me this. We're too busy fighting and arguing if we're not careful. And if we're not careful, that just leads us away. And it deters us from our own problems and our own world. It's like our own video game, right? We, instead of doing what we're supposed to be doing, and loving one another and learning and teaching and doing all these things to edify the kingdom, now we've just created, let's fight because let's match wits. Hey, let's do this, and hey, let's do that. And if we're not careful, it is no longer a debate. It becomes something that is not even kosher, if I could say that word, right? It's not even nice. It's not even a fun way to be. So let's go on. Matthew 18:10. See that you do not despise one of those little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. We're not supposed to despise the little ones. We're not supposed to hurt the other ones. We're not supposed to, and we know better than that, right? We are supposed to help each other. And we sure ain't supposed to be lying to children and telling them all kinds of made-up December 25th lies, or bunny rabbit lies, or any other sort of lie. Isaiah 65:25. The wolf and the lamb shall graze together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox. Can you imagine that? And dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, says Yahweh. You ain't got to worry about snakes no more. You're like me, you go down south and you go through this swampy area and you go to different places and you got to put on some snake boots. You got to do this, you got to do that. Ain't got to worry no more. Ain't going to be no more of them worries. Ain't that great? The wolf and the lamb shall graze together. Could you imagine that? The lion shall eat straw like the ox. The lion. It's just amazing that what we're going to see, what we're going to be a part of. In closing, whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense. What? Did you know that was in the Bible? But a man of understanding remains silent. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. We don't have to tell everything that happened at the neighbor's house. We don't have to tell the neighbor everything that happened at this house. We don't have to tell and talk and go on. All we have to do is keep our mouth shut, right? Just keep quiet. Mind our business. That good old adage, that good old saying, if you ain't got nothing good to say, then don't say nothing at all. Sometimes that shoe fits. Let's wear it, right? So we have to be careful in these things if we want to make it to home, if we want to look to our new home, if we want to have that new home, we have to do the right things now. Because it ain't like what we have here. Well, I'm going to save it up and I'm going to buy it one day and it's going to be, we have to do what's right. And we have to do the obedient thing. Going away, we do get the gist of it. But we have to be very careful in how we make it to our home. Because there's paths. There's the broad path and there's the narrow path. The narrow path is the way that leads to home. So until next time, may Yahweh bless you. May His kindness shine upon you, and may He grant you shalom. Shalom. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. Until next time, may Yahweh bless